If you're hearing this, it means the world didn't end. It just started bleeding in a new direction. The archive has gone public. The war is no longer coming. It's here. They thought Nia was just a vessel, but now every bloodline is watching her, terrified, worshipping, plotting. This isn't a prophecy anymore. It's a playbook, and everyone's choosing sides. Welcome to part 3 of Crimson Vows. Welcome to the Age of Fire. Chapter 37, The Pulse Beneath the City. Beneath the city, where roots clawed through concrete and ancient wards cracked like old bones, something stirred. Not Lucian, not Calexa. Something older. Something that hadn't moved in centuries. Until now. Nia felt it in her teeth, a low hum vibrating behind her molars. A rhythm older than language, vibrating through marrow. The baby wasn't restless, she was listening. You ever feel watched by the ground? Yeah, it was like that. Ava led her through the underground, abandoned tunnels and buried chapels repurposed by rebels, witches, the forgotten. There's someone you need to meet, Ava said. Alive? Nia asked. Ava didn't answer. They reached the vault. No locks. No tech. Just a door of bone and mercury, pulsing like it had a heartbeat. Inside sat a woman, or what used to be one. Skin like ash, eyes like obsidian soaked in wine, and tattoos across her chest that shimmered when Nia entered. I'm called Mother Ash, the woman rasped, and you are not what he made you. Nia's breath caught, because Calexa moved again hard, almost like she was reaching toward the woman. Why do I feel like I've died here before? Nia whispered. Because you have, Mother Ash said. In pieces, in blood, in prophecy. Ava shifted. She's one of the originals, she whispered. Before kings, before thrones. She remembers when fangs were still curses. Mother Ash's lips cracked into a smile. And she's what comes after. Nia blinked. A vision hit her like gunfire behind the eyes. Flashes of red sky. Hands tearing through altar stone. Calexa, aged Tanai's black, hovering midair. Crowds chanting her name. The vision ended in smoke and broken crowns. You're seeing what could be, Mother Ash said. Is it real? That depends. Are you ready to lead a world that wants you dead? Before Nia could answer, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The tunnels groaned like something was being dragged through them. Ava checked her .com. That's not an earthquake, she muttered. No, Mother Ash said, it's him. Lucian's dead. Not him, the woman whispered, and she pointed to the ground. The first one. Nia backed away, but the silver ring on her finger burned hotter than ever, like it was waking up, too. You need to go, Mother Ash said. Whatever's waking up, it remembers you, even if you don't. They ran, past boiling pipes, past glyphs melting off the walls. The tunnels were collapsing, but not from weakness, from summoning. And in the dark, a whisper coiled into Ava's ear. She isn't just the key, she's the lock. Chapter 38, The Lock and the Knife. The air outside the tunnel was wrong. Not stale like underground, not fresh like freedom. It was sharp, metallic, alive. Nia stepped into it and tasted copper on her tongue. The city skyline blinked back at her familiar, yet bent. One building leaned like it remembered being a church. Another shimmered like a prison lost in time. Reality was slipping, and she was the center of the crack. We're not supposed to be here, Ava muttered. You mean this place? I mean this time. Behind them, the vault had collapsed, sealing Mother Ash inside. Whether she was dead or buried alive in prophecy was anyone's guess, but her last words clung to Nia's skin. She's not the key, she's the lock. Nia pressed a hand against her stomach. Calexa moved, not like a child, like a compass, like she was pointing somewhere, or to someone. They kept moving, past storefronts bleeding neon into candlelight, past a man flickering between a cop and a monk. Time snapping like elastic, Ava said, scanning her wrist device. Your blood work's rewriting causality. We're seeing bleed through. Of what? Possible pasts. and futures that don't want to stay gone. They reached the rooftop safe house on 11, or what was left of it, half burned, half overgrown, and in the center, Damien stood waiting rifle slung across his shoulder, like it weighed less than his guilt. "You brought it here," he said without turning around. "It brought me," Nia replied. "Same difference." He tossed something toward her, a blade wrapped in cloth. It hit the concrete with a hollow thung. She unwrapped it. The bone-white hilt shimmered under moonlight. Its edge wasn't sharp, it was hungry. "What is this?" she asked. "Yours," Damien said. "Carved from your rib, blessed in ash, soaked in salt. The only thing old enough to cut a bond made in blood magic. You want me to kill her. I want you to survive her." The knife pulsed in Nia's hand, and her thoughts bent memories realigning. A vision. A throne built of ash, Calexa sitting on it, barefoot and grinning, fangs wet with war. Another, herself, kneeling, begging. Then a third, Calexa holding the knife, kissing her mother's forehead before turning it on the world. "You're afraid of her," Nia whispered to Damien. "No," he said. "I'm afraid of you." Ava said nothing, but her silence weighed the same. That night, the eclipse returned. Not in the sky. In Nia's eyes. She blinked and the moon was red. She blinked again and the city below was full of watchers. Cloaked shapes on rooftops, eyes in alleyways, hands gripping old weapons. Vampires, hunters, ghosts. They weren't hiding. They were kneeling. Calexa kicked, and Nia's body lit up with a heat, not her own. The ring burned, the blade glowed, and inside her skull, a voice whispered not Lucian, not Mother Ash, not even Ava. Her own voice. Older, wiser, cruel. The sword was never in your hand. It is your hand. The safe house trembled. Not from footsteps, from arrival. A shadow spilled over the rooftop like ink. Tall, familiar. Wearing Lucian's face, but not his stillness. "You," Nia breathed. The man smiled. "You thought he was the beginning." That night was the spark. He stepped forward, and Ava drew her gun. "Who are you?" The smile widened. "I'm the echo." "Of what?" "Of every mistake you haven't made yet." Damien raised his rifle, but it jammed. The shadow raised a hand, and Damien's mouth filled with blood knot from a strike. From memory, his past bleeding forward. Nia screamed, not in fear, in command. The sky cracked, and every kneeling creature below turned their head upward, toward her. Not the baby, not the prophecy. Her. Because tonight, the city finally understood Nia Carter wasn't the lock. She was the damn door. Chapter 39. The door that bled open. There are moments that split the world in half. Not loud ones, not always violent. Sometimes it's as simple as a woman standing still while the sky fractures around her and everyone watching realizes they don't belong in the same timeline anymore. Nia stood at the edge of the rooftop, wind curling around her like worship. The eclipse held its red breath overhead, and the shadows didn't move until she did. "They're waiting," Ava said, her voice barely audible. "For what?" Nia asked. Damien coughed, blood in his teeth. "For permission." The man wearing Lucian's face tilted his head. His smile was still there, but it didn't touch his eyes. "You feel it now, don't you?" he said. "The split in the air, the undoing. You were never meant to carry a child. You were meant to carry a signal." "What are you?" she demanded. "I'm what comes after truth." He didn't attack. He didn't need to. The air between them began to fold just slightly, like a throat preparing to swallow. Ava backed up. "Nia, if you're gonna do something queenly, now would be a great time." But Nia didn't speak. She turned inward. Calexa moved again, this time stretching, flexing like a serpent beneath her ribs. The ring on Nia's hand pulsed like a second heart, and that's when she realized the knife wasn't humming anymore. It was singing. She dropped to one knee, plunged the blade into her own palm. Blood hissed against the rooftop. The shadows flinched. But the man in front of her, he laughed. "You think that hurts me?" No, Nia said, it's not for you. The blood hit the stone and the rooftop screamed. The city didn't quake. It breathed. The windows along the skyline fogged. Street lamps flickered into candelabras. Every creature kneeling below gasped in unison as the crimson light around the moon flared then pulsed. From the blood. From her. A crack tore through the rooftop. Not physical. Chronological. Like someone had just shattered a memory. Out of the split crawled hands writhing, shaking, burning. Ghosts of women, mothers, midwives, carriers of cursed lineage. They reached for her, not to drag her down, but to bless her. We carried the first, they whispered in unison. You carry the last. The man in Lucian's skin lunged. Damien fired a second shotit, ricocheted off the thing's shoulder like rubber off stone. Ava grabbed Nia's arm. We need to move. But Nia didn't budge. She stepped toward him instead. The ghosts parted. And she spoke directly to the man's stolen face. Tell the elders. The child chose me. Not the crown, not the cause. Me. Then you've doomed them all, he snarled. Maybe, Nia said. But I'm tired of apologizing for surviving. He swung, fangs out, shadows clutching like tendrils. But before he reached her, Calexa screamed. A sound that came not from lungs, but from history. The man dropped. Not dead, not wounded, just hollowed out. Like something crawled through his mind and erased the part that fought. I-5. The rooftop went still. Only the blade hummed now. And Nia stood tall, blood drying on her fingers. Ava looked at her differently. Not like a friend. Not even like a story. Like a witness. So what now? Now? Nia exhaled. We pick a battlefield. Where? Where it all started. Nia looked down at the ring. It glowed again, dim and steady. And for the first time, she understood. It wasn't a shackle. It was a map. Chapter 40, The Garden Beneath the City. The tunnels under the cathedral didn't exist on any map. No blueprints, no digital record. Just stone carved by hands older than the country, sealed by blood and prophecy. Nia didn't ask how Damien knew the way. He didn't explain. Some roads don't need directions, only ghosts. They moved quietly. Ava held a flashlight in one hand and a silver stake in the other, muttering under her breath about bad choices and worse omens. You ever get tired of walking into nightmares? She asked. No, Nia replied softly. I think I was born in one. The tunnel sloped downward, air thick with damp moss and iron. Calexa was quiet, too quiet. She hadn't moved in hours. And yet, Nia could feel her watching. From the inside, You okay? Ava asked. Nia didn't answer. She wasn't sure who the question was for anymore. At the end of the corridor, the stone changed. Smoothed, polished. Symbols carved along the walls in a language that didn't belong to any living tongue. Damien ran his fingers along one. Last time I was here, the ground screamed, he said. Charming, Ava muttered. Can't wait to see what it does for a baby shower. Nia stepped into the chamber first. It was a garden. Underground. Impossible. Glowing with violet vines and roses, the color of dried blood. Flowers bloomed without sun, petals folding like they remembered hymns. In the center, a fountain of ash. Still. Silent. Sacred. This is where it started, Damien said, where the first bloodline was bound. And unbinding it will unlock whatever she really is. You don't sound sure. Because I'm not. Nia approached the fountain. Each step echoed like a drumbeat. The ring on her finger hummed. The blade at her hip sang. Her blood whispered. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the vial. Damien's ashes. Lucian's sacrifice. Everything had a cost. You don't have to do this, Ava said. I already did, Nia whispered. She emptied the vial into the fountain. The world tilted. Not sideways, inward. Like the chamber exhaled, and for a moment, Nia saw the shape of things not yet written. Herself on fire, smiling. Ava screaming into a broken recorder. Calexa standing in a circle of kneeling gods. The sky bleeding like a womb. The fountain boiled. Ash turned to blood. The vines writhed. The roses withered. And Calexa moved hard, forceful, awake. Nia dropped to her knees. Her hands hit stone, but her skin sparked. Symbols crawled up her arms. The language from the walls carved into her veins. "What's happening?" Ava shouted. "She's waking up," Damien growled. "The old way." "I am." And then, Calexa spoke. No baby voice, no coo. She spoke. "This body is not enough," she said, voice clear inside Nia's skull. "Then take mine," Nia replied, teeth clenched, tears hot. "I already have." "I am." The room exploded in light. Not brightness. Memory. Scenes crashed like waves. Lucian weeping in a firelit temple. Ava hiding the first blood tests. Damien swearing an oath beneath a dying star. Nia. Always Nia. Always running until now. "I am." When the light faded, Nia stood. Alone. No Ava. No Damien. Just silence. And in the reflection of the blood-filled fountain, she saw her daughter. Older. Smiling. Crowned in ash. Chapter 41. The echo in her bones. Somewhere above the earth, the city kept spinning. Sirens wailed. Screens blinked. People died quietly in beds while clocks pretended it still mattered. But beneath it, all beneath the steel and sky, something ancient was crawling back into the light. Nia opened her eyes. She was back in her body. But her body was new. The air felt denser around her skin, like reality was testing her temperature, seeing how far it could stretch before it broke. She stood at the edge of the fountain again, blood still reflecting her daughter's impossible face. But the image shimmered and faded. No Ava, no Damien, only a voice. "You died for a moment," it said. "And in that breath, you remembered what you are." She turned. Lucian was there. Not real. Not quite. A shimmer. A projection. A burnt echo. "You're gone," she said. "No," Lucian replied. "I'm woven in." He reached out, no touch, just presence. "You think this story is about you, but you're only the door. Then what's on the other side?" "The reason doors exist." She blinked and Lucian was gone. In his place, the chamber cracked. Roots tore free from the walls. Ash filled the air like storm snow. And above her, in the dirt ceiling, the vines began to part, letting in light. Sunlight. The garden was surfacing. At street level, the war had begun. The elders moved through mirrors now. They stepped out of chrome elevator doors, glass storefronts, puddles in alleyways. No more hiding, no more proxy. The child was awake, and with her, the blood rights curse began to unravel. Ava ran through the crumbling hospital, recorder in one hand, gun in the other. She's coming back, she told herself. She has to. She ducked into a stairwell. Behind her, the wall collapsed, replaced by two vampires, faceless and long-fingered, gliding forward on hunger. "Come on, Nia," she whispered. "Any time now." Damien wasn't running. He was hunting. In one hand, his old blade. In the other, the severed hand of an elder, still twitching. "I swore an oath," he muttered, "and I never break twice." He followed the scream of the city, cutting down what shouldn't exist, leaving trails of silver fire in his wake. And then above them all, Nia emerged. Not through a door, not through an explosion. She rose through the street like the earth had chosen her. Ash spiraled upward. The ring on her finger burned red, then white. She was barefoot, bleeding, smiling, and behind her floated Calexa. Not a baby, not a monster. Something else, something divine. The crowd stopped. Even the vampires flinched. "Who speaks for the Bloodlines now?" one elder growled. Nia stepped forward. "I don't speak for them." "Then you're nothing." "No," she said. She touched Calexa's floating form. The child opened her glowing eyes. The world held its breath. "I'm not the speaker," Nia said. "I'm the reset." Chapter 43. The Day the Shadows Wept. The world didn't break. It folded. Sky pressed down like it had secrets to whisper. Every shadow stretched thin across the city, trembling like it remembered sunlight used to hurt. And for the first time in recorded history, vampires bled in daylight. They didn't die. They didn't burn. But something deeper fractured. Their hunger turned inward. Their names lost taste. And their blood began to rebel. Ava drove what was left of a stolen medical van through the edge of Midtown. Windshield cracked and wipers rusted with ash. Nia sat in the back, cradling Calixanot in arms, but in silence. The child no longer spoke. She dreamed with her eyes open, and those dreams leaked out in glyphs on her mother's skin. She's stabilizing, Ava said. Or evolving. Into what? Into the question we're not ready to ask. The street gave way under them. A sinkhole the size of a city block swallowed the front tire. Ava swore, jerked the wheel, and barely avoided being dragged down with it. That wasn't erosion, she hissed. That was planned. They're waking the city beneath, Nia muttered. What city? The one they built before us. Under us. Damien stood by the wreckage. He hadn't ridden in the van. He had followed. On foot. Through shadow. By blood trail and instinct. He looked at Calexa with one eye closed. She's broadcasting, he said. What? Memories, commands, bloodline echoes. She's not thinking, she's summoning. And then it started. The quake. It wasn't tectonic. It was personal. Every vampire in the city stopped mid-motion, clutched their chest. Some dropped to their knees. A call had been issued. And not from a throne, from a cradle, Calexa whispered, words in no known tongue. But Nia understood. She said, they cannot cage what they never created. She's talking about herself? Ava asked. She's talking about all of them. In the heart of the city, the cathedral crumbled. But what replaced it wasn't ruin. It was a tower of bone, climbing higher by the second, built from the fallen, the cursed, the forgotten, the obelisk of origin. Every elder within 100 miles turned to face it, and knelt. From its base rose a figure. Tall, masked, robed in glyphs. It didn't walk, it floated. Is that Lucian? Ava asked. Nia shook her head. That's older. That's before. The figure spoke. You have returned the crown to the wound. You have broken the binding oath. Now the reckoning will begin. Ava pulled her recorder. Say that last part again for the mic. Not now, Nia hissed. But it was too late. The figure turned toward Ava, eyes behind the mask, glowing. And for a heartbeat, she wasn't there. She was on fire. She was screaming. She was in the womb. And then, back, collapsed, bleeding from the nose, recorder fried. Damien stepped between them, gun raised. Enough prophecy, speak plain. The masked figure didn't flinch. The child is not your savior. She is your mirror. And your deadline. Calexa rose from Nia's arms. This time, by choice. She floated toward the figure, met its gaze, and did something no vampire, no human, no god had done in 10,000 years. She laughed, and the sound broke the obelisk in half. Chapter 44. Where the old gods sleep. The obelisk collapsed like it had been waiting to die. A choir of screams echoed up from its ruins. A harmony of ancient things finally being freed or finally being noticed. Dust rained like memory. And through the smoke, Calexa floated, eyes glowing red and gold, her laugh still reverberating through the cracks of the world. Nia didn't chase her. She followed. Not out of fear, not out of control, but because she knew Calexa was leading her somewhere older, somewhere beneath. They walked into the ruins of Midtown like it was a tomb no one remembered burying. Ava kept her gun close, though she knew it wouldn't help against anything that bled backward in time. Damien moved like a soldier in a dream. We're heading into an echo, he muttered. Every step's already happened. We're just catching up to the scream. Ava glanced sideways. That's supposed to scare me? That's just supposed to tell you there's no way out once we go under. At the base of the broken obelisk was a hatch. Old, circular, covered in glyphs that moved when you weren't looking. Calexa touched it. It opened like it remembered her, and the scent of the before rushed out. Cedar, smoke, burnt teeth, and something worse, a kind of silence that tasted like betrayal. The stairs were bone, not metaphorical, real femurs, tibias, phalanges, worn smooth by centuries of ascent and descent. The deeper they went, the more the air tasted like metal and regret. "This is where they made us," Damien said quietly. "You mean vampires?" Nia asked. He didn't answer, which meant yes, they reached the chamber. No light, yet everything was visible. Not through sight, but through memory. The space was circular, a ring of stone thrones. Each throne held a corpse, some mummified, some wet, all watching. In the center, a pool of black water, still as glass. Calexa hovered above it and spoke a name that made Damien fall to one knee, made Ava cover her ears, made Nia bleed from the nose. "You shouldn't know that," Damien gasped. "She was born knowing it," Nia said. "No one is born knowing its name." The water stirred, ripples became waves, and from beneath the surface rose a body. Lucien, alive, gasping, eyes wide, not angry, not vengeful, just terrified. "She found me," he choked out. "She brought me here. You weren't supposed to wake it." Calexa didn't answer. She extended her hand, and from the pool rose something else. Not a creature, not a god, a concept. Time as blood, folded, alive, leaking from every crack in the chamber. "She's calling the old bloodlines home," Lucien whispered. "Not to rule them, to end them." Ava dropped her camera. "Okay, I didn't sign up for gods made of time." "None of us did," Nia said, gripping her by the wrist. "That's why we survive it." The chamber shook. The corpses in the thrones began to stir. Not alive, but moving, their mouths opening in unison. Whispers, not in words, but judgment. And through it all, Calexa's voice rang out like a funeral bell. "You built your kingdoms on stolen breath. Now choke on it." The black water exploded upward. Damien shoved Nia and Ava behind a fallen slab as time bent around them. Lucien screamed as blood peeled away from his skin, tracing every sin he'd ever hidden. The thrones cracked, the gods woke, and above the chaos, Calexa stood unshaken. A child, a weapon, a reckoning. Chapter 45. When the blood sang back, the world didn't reset. It remembered. Every crack in the street pulsed red. Every bird fled east. And for the first time in 700 years, the sun rose without casting a single shadow. Because nothing dared block the light. Nia stood in the doorway of the chamber, Calexa cradled in one arm, though she no longer felt like a child. She pulsed. She hummed with something primal. Lucien was curled in the water like it hurt to breathe. It probably did. The gods weren't done with him yet. "You look tired," Ava muttered, pressing gauze to her temple where blood still leaked from her ear. "She won't sleep," Nia whispered. "Every time she closes her eyes, something answers." Damien was silent. Not out of stoicism. Out of fear. The child had made a choice in that chamber. And he'd seen it. She didn't want to be saved. She wanted to be obeyed. Ava scanned the glyphs on the broken throne stones, snapping photos, notes, anything she could archive. "These aren't prophecies," she whispered. "They're contracts." "What kind?" Nia asked. Ava didn't answer right away. "The kind no one survives." Above them, rooftops cracked. The obelisk had not only called Bloodlines, it had cursed them. And now those bloodlines, once regal and hidden, were feeding on themselves. Elders were devouring fledglings. Covens tearing themselves apart in alleyways and cathedrals alike. Every unspoken oath coming due. "This isn't just about Calexa anymore," Damien said. "No," Nia agreed. "It never was." In a warehouse once used for vampire tribunals, a meeting was called. 6 figures. 1 human. 1 child. 4 old things pretending to be people. What do you want? One of them asked Nia. The war to end, she said. Then kill the child, said another. A beat. Try, Nia whispered. They didn't. They couldn't. Because in the corner, Calexa smiled, and their fangs rotted in their mouths. Lucian emerged from the shadows later that night, barefoot, drenched in silence. He held no title now, only shame. You were never supposed to carry it, he told Nia. Then why did you give me the ring? She asked. I didn't. He looked past Herto Calexa. She chose you, through me. Ava sat alone in her motel room, files spread like tarot cards. Every thread led to one place, Baldwin Memorial, a forgotten psychiatric hospital on the coast, closed after a fire in 1971, records erased, and one recurring note in vampire archives. The vault was sealed with a scream. If they buried something there, Ava muttered, it's not done dreaming. She circled the name, double underlined it, then circled it again. Damien knocked once. She let him in. We move at dawn, he said. Not night? Not anymore. That night, Nia had the dream again. The red eclipse, the kneeling gods, and Calexa in the center of the molder. Eyes like galaxies, a crown of bone, voice like thunder trapped in a lullaby. Wake up, Mama, she said. We're almost free. Chapter 46, The City Beneath the Wound. She dreamt of it long before they ever stepped foot inside. A spiral built from bone and echoes, vaulted ceilings that dripped with forgotten names. A city not made by hands, but by consequences. And now she stood inside it, not by choice but by birthright. Calexa didn't blink. Not once. Baldwin Memorial had collapsed behind them, but there was no rubble, no exit, just a corridor that pulsed with wet air and whispered names. Ava gripped her recorder, breath short. Are we underground? She whispered. Lucian didn't answer, because he was kneeling and shaking. Damien's blade caught a tremor vibrating against his palm like it was afraid. He stared at Nia, or rather, what stood in her place now. There was something new behind her eyes. A rhythm, a hum, like her heart didn't be at it, echoed. This isn't a vault, he finally said. It's a cradle. They passed through arches of marrow, doors made from spines. No blood, no decay, just clean, eternal ivory, inscribed in a language only Calexa seemed to understand. She pointed. They followed. And the deeper they went, the quieter everything became. Even Ava's questions faded. I think this place is older than belief, she muttered. It is, Lucian rasped. This was where we made the first trade. Nia turned. What trade? He didn't look at her when he answered. Freedom for immortality. At what cost? Women like you. They reached a circular chamber where 12 pillars curved like ribs above a sunken altar. There were no gods here, only decisions. Calexa stepped down first, barefoot on obsidian, and when she reached the center, she touched the stone. It sang, low and guttural, a sound that didn't pass through the ears, but the bones. Nia flinched. Ava cried out. Lucian collapsed. From the shadows emerged shapes. Not people, not vampires. Testaments, flesh-forged, half-seen things twisted by oaths older than sunlight. They bowed to Calexa, every one of them. What are they? Ava whispered. Witnesses? Nia answered. She didn't know how she knew, but she did. Then the light changed, and in its shift, the altar opened. What lay beneath wasn't a throne, or a crypt, or even a heart. It was a seed, perfectly suspended in blood, beating, alive. Calexa stared. This is mine, she said. What is it? Nia asked. A decision. Lucian tried to crawl closer. You can't, he choked. You can't give her that. Give her what? Damien asked. The first blood. Lucian's eyes were wide, unblinking. That seed was cut from the spine of the mother of all things. It was meant to end us, or begin us again. Calexa turned. Then let's begin. She touched it, and the world outside screamed. Back in New York, Glass shattered in every building marked with the symbol of the crown. Covens were torn from within. Elders burst into ash. Blood that had been sealed in vaults boiled from the earth like oil. And above it all, the red moon returned, watching, grinning, hungry. In the vault, Nia fell to her knees as Calexa's body was lifted in a cocoon of light. The seed dissolved into her chest like mist. And in that moment, she stopped being a child and became the heir. Lucian sobbed. Damien lowered his blade. And Ava? She just hit record. This is Ava Nadoy, live from the forgotten cradle of the First City. If this signal makes it out, if you hear my voice, it means the war has started. And our side has a queen. Chapter 47, The Signal. The first sound wasn't a scream, it was laughter. Frantic, unhinged, carried through static on a channel no one should have been listening to. Then came the second sound. This is not a test. The emergency broadcast system activated on its own, hijacking frequencies from DC to Johannesburg. Every screen flickered black. Every device locked. In Times Square, the mega screens bled red with a single symbol, a crown of thorns, dipped in blood, wrapped around a fetus. A voice followed. You were warned. Ava had barely gotten them out. Lucian was burned across the back, patches of skin flaking like ash. Damien bled from one eye, still gripping a stolen artifacta curved blade, humming like a tuning fork. Nia held Calexa tight to her chest. The child slept as the world screamed her name. They emerged through a concrete tunnel beneath the Hudson, surfacing in an abandoned subway station, train tracks glowing faintly from leaking thawmite. The world above was changing. Tell me we weren't followed, Ava said. Damien crouched at the edge of the platform. He sniffed the air. We weren't, he said. Lying to me or yourself? He didn't answer. Lucian tried to stand, groaning. Nia didn't look at him. You knew this would happen. I hoped it wouldn't. Stop saying hope like it's a shield. She turned from him, eyes gleaming faintly. Not human anymore, not entirely. And when Calexa stirred, Nia's body glowed with her. No longer protector, no longer patient zero. She was transmitting. Damien opened the duffel they'd dragged from the vault. Inside, old tech, sealed scrolls, and a communication rig lined with living veins. Blood tech. Forbidden. Designed to reach one person only. Who are we calling? Ava asked. The last archivist, Damien said. She'll never answer. She already did. The rig powered on with a pulse, a heartbeat. Then came a hiss of breath. Old, weary. You shouldn't have opened the vault. We didn't open it, Nia replied. We answered it. Then the accord is broken. There's no peace now, only reclamation. Then come reclaim it, Nia said, fire in her voice. You think you're the first mother? You're not. You're the last. And the signal cut out. Up above, the skies bled violet. Bloodlines began shifting their marks glowing on the skin of sleepers. Those who had vampire blood, even distantly, began to dream the same dream. A throne of bone, a child of ash, and a woman whispering in a voice they all recognized. Nia. Calling. Commanding. Waking the forgotten. In Tokyo, the blood architects unsealed their gates. In Lagos, the river priests lit the ancestral flame. And in Berlin, something older than war stirred beneath the Rijksmuseum. The age of quiet was done. This was the recital. Ava turned to Nia as sirens echoed overhead. What now? We move, Nia said. We rally every clan who doesn't want to kneel. And the ones who do? We bury them. Calexa opened her eyes for the first time in hours. They were no longer human. No longer even vampiric. They were celestial. She blinked and said only one thing. He's coming. Who? Lucian whispered. The one you forgot. The one you buried. She looked at Nia. He wants you back. Ava recorded the moment, her voice low and resolute. Day 1. The bloodlines are active. The signal's been received. The child is awake. And we just lost the sky. Chapter 48. The one who buried the sky. The rain fell backward. Not a metaphor literal reversal. Droplets rose from puddles, climbed glass towers, and vanished into the sky, like the world had rewound itself for him. The one who buried the sky had awakened. He wore no name that could be spoken, but they called him Varric once, the old crown's blade, the spine of conquest, banished when the last queen bled stars. Now, the stars were bleeding again. In Manhattan, the first sign came as silence. The birds stopped, the trains froze, and then every person with ancient blood dropped to their knees crying, laughing, screaming in unison. He walks again. Below, in the labyrinth of tunnels beneath 3rd Avenue, Damien stopped cold. Feel that? Nia clutched Calexa tighter. It's like gravity turned to grief. Lucian knelt, jaw clenched. It's him. No one else would dare pull the tide back. I thought he was sealed, Ava muttered, wide-eyed. He was. In the sky. That's what the crown did last time. Buried him in starlight, locked the gate with 3 bloodlines. Damien stood. And now one of those lines walks. They all looked at Nia. The air cracked, but there was no thunder, just arrival. The smell of scorched salt and iron filled the city. And then the mirrors began to cry. Not crack weep. Real tears. Blood from the eyes of their reflections. Time's distorted, Ava whispered. I can feel us slipping between now and after. Lucian stood behind her, nodding. He moves through time, not in it. If we wait, we lose. So what do we do? She asked. We bring her to the Citadel. Nia felt it deep inside. The child had stopped moving. Not out of fear, out of focus. She could hear Calexa listening to something, only she could hear. We don't have much time, Nia said. No, Damien agreed. And the longer she listens, the more the veil breaks. He looked at Lucian. You know what we need. Lucian's face paled. You're not serious. Give her the blade. I'm in. The blade wasn't a sword. It was an oath forged in guilt. Lucian had hidden it in an old piano, of all things. Irony never did die. When Nia touched it, the handle burned, but she didn't drop it. She absorbed it. The steel pulsed, silver and black, drinking the light around it. What is it? She asked. The only thing that's ever pierced Varric's skin, Lucian replied. And I'm supposed to use it? You're supposed to survive. They moved fast, crossing forgotten tunnels, ascending through old subways that hadn't seen light in 100 years. As they passed, vampires in hiding turned to face her and bowed. Nia didn't ask why. She knew. She wasn't their savior. She was their reminder. That power doesn't come with prophecy. It comes with choice. Above ground, the moon turned rust red, and in the sky, a crack opened. A literal break in the clouds, jagged, pulsing with blue fire. Through it came him. Not a body, a presence. He filled the air like a memory inescapable. Varric's voice wasn't a roar. It was a whisper in every mind. Return what was promised. Ava recorded through shaking fingers. This is day 2. Varric has breached the veil. Time is broken. Sky's burning. We're headed toward the Citadel Thay last stronghold. If you're hearing this, you're already in the future. Pray it's one she controls. Chapter 49. The Citadel bleeds. No door, no gate, no password. The Citadel didn't need protection. It was the protection until tonight. From the outside, it looked like a forgotten cathedral, tucked between skyscrapers like a relic no one dared knock down. Inside, it was alive. Walls made of bone honeycomb, stairs that grew when called, bloodlines carved into every inch of its shifting geometry. A temple, a weapon, a prison, but tonight it bled. Something's wrong, Lucian whispered as they reached the threshold. The door, usually silent, was weeping. Thick red tears ran from the hinges, and the crown seal had fractured like a dried vein. It's already started, Damien muttered. He's inside. Ava raised her camera to record, but the lens cracked. I'm not going in blind. None of us are, Nia said. Her voice echoed strangely now, as if something else spoke beside her. Calexa opened her eyes from Nia's chest wrap. No tears, no fear. Just one word. He's waiting. They stepped in. The citadel didn't greet them. It tested them. Every hall twisted. The air tightened with memories that weren't theirs. Ava gasped and dropped to her knees. I saw my mom alive. She said my name. This place doesn't lie, Lucian muttered. It resurfaces. Nia gritted her teeth. She felt every heartbreak she'd buried crawl up her spine. But deeper than pain was purpose. The citadel was reacting to her. It had waited centuries for this moment. They reached the center, the altar room. Once a sanctuary of blood rites, now desecrated. Walls charred, glyphs burned away. And in the middle a throne of ribs, bent and cracked, as if something had been born from it. Standing before it, Varric. Not monstrous, not tall. A man, older than war. His smile was gentle. His eyes glowed with the kind of grief gods envy. You brought her, he said softly. She's not yours, Damien growled. She's not yours either, Varric replied, stepping forward. She's what comes after. You were all the practice run. Lucian stepped forward, sword drawn. But Varric waved his hand and the steel melted into dust. You think I came to fight? Varric asked. You came to take, Nia replied. I came to kneel. Silence. Even the citadel held its breath. Varric knelt before Nia and the child in her arms. I burned the sky because they broke the oath. I shattered time because they shattered love. But Harrier daughter she is the bridge between what was and what could be. He placed his hand on the floor. The stone rippled. I am not your enemy. You're a murderer, Ava said. So is every king. Suddenly, Calexa stirred and spoke in a voice layered with centuries. I remember you. You tried to kill the first me. Varric bowed his head. And I failed. So I became the storm. But now, I lay it down. He lifted his hand. A blade appeared. The real one. Not the oath steel Lucian had carried, but the original. Made from the fang of the first vampire. He offered it to Nia. End me, or lead me. Nia stepped forward. Her hands shook. Her heart screamed. But Calexa reached up, touching the blade. And when her tiny fingers touched it, it withered, crumbled to dust. We don't need kings, Calexa said, or queens. Then what? Varric asked. Witnesses. The citadel trembled. The bloodlines began rewriting themselves. And for the first time since the world bled itself into tribes and thrones, the war ended in silence. Not victory, but yielding. Ava recorded it all. Day 3. The throne is dust. The blade's gone. Varric bowed. Nia still stands. I don't know what comes next. She looked up at Nia, eyes glowing, face lit by the citadel's final fire. But I know who will follow. Chapter 50. Whisper Between Worlds. There was no sky anymore, only memory. What used to be stars now flickered like echoish shadows of constellations that no longer served gods, only watchers. And below, in the ruin of what had once been a war-torn sanctuary, a child laughed. That was the real miracle. Not fire, not blood, not prophecy, just laughter. Nia didn't cry. She didn't have to. The tears had already burned their way through her over these past days through betrayal, blood rituals, and truths old enough to predate names. She held Calexa close, walking barefoot over what used to be the citadel's altar. Is it really over? Ava asked, her voice raw from nights without sleep, days without knowing if the world would make it another sunrise. Nia didn't answer right away, because it wasn't. Not really. Varric was gone. Not dead, not defeated. Just dispersed. Broken across time like dust caught in a sunbeam. He had become a cautionary tale to whatever came after. A whisper in the marrow of the new world. Power without purpose decays. The bloodlines had scattered too. Many had bowed. Others fled into shadow, unwilling to follow a child who refused to rule. But they would return. Eventually. They always do. Lucian watched from a shattered balcony, his face unreadable, his coat soaked from mist and ash. He lit a cigarette he didn't need. We built kingdoms on fear, he muttered to no one. And she crushed them with love. Not bad for a Tuesday. Behind him, Damien paced. Still restless, still half soldier, half wolf. There'll be others, he warned. Always are. Then she'll choose again, Lucian said. Not to fight, just to stand. Ava uploaded the final file. The archive was open. Every report, every sighting, every conspiracy she'd ever chased now lived in plain view. Public domain. People panicked, sure, but more than that, they believed. The world didn't need another secret war. It needed witnesses. And Whisper Between Worlds became a beacon, a digital campfire for the survivors, the believers, the broken, the ones who saw the sky split and lived to talk about it. Nia sat in what was left of a church pew, though the roof was gone, the stained glass broken into galaxies on the floor. Calexa nursed in peace, her red eyes glowing soft as candlelight. She's quiet today, Ava said, crouching beside her. She's listening, Nia replied. To what? Everything. And in the stillness, they all heard it too. The hum of a world restarting. Not cleansed, not reborn, just reawakened. Ava reached into her bag and pulled out the recorder one last time. She pressed record. Final entry. The child survived. The Citadel's fallen. The Bloodlines fractured. But we're still here. If you're hearing this, maybe you are too. We don't know what the future looks like, but we know who it listens to. She looked at Nia, at Calexa, then smiled. And if you want to find the truth, listen close. There's always a whisper between worlds. If you've made it this far, you didn't just survive the story. You became part of it. From blood rites to broken crowns, from whispered prophecies to battles fought in silence, this wasn't just Nia's story. It was yours. And though Crimson Vows ends here, the echoes remain. So if the shadows ever feel too close, if the night hums with secrets, just remember we upload daily, and the next tale is always waiting. Like, subscribe, and keep listening at Whisper Between Worlds. We'll see you between the lines.